Welcome back to Face the State on this Sunday morning. We are joined now by two legislative leaders, the House Majority Leader, Matt Ritter, a Democrat, and the House Minority Leader, Themis, Klarides, a Republican. And thanks so much for being with us here today.
Thanks for having us, Dennis.
I'm going to begin with you, Representative Klarides, this segment, because we began with the Democrat last time. Your thoughts on what the governor had to say today?
We have to remember it's the second year of a budget, and so I don't think there was a lot of earth-shattering information. I mean, if you want to start with what I thought was good in it, I thought it was great that he maintained that he will keep the municipal aid that he proposed last year in the budget, because cities and towns have been struggling a lot, not knowing what we're going to give them and not give them, particularly with property tax proposals and teachers' pension proposals in the past. So I think that's very good, and it's important for our cities and towns. And I think it's great. We're going to be doing some more state police trooper classes because we need more of those good men and women on our roads to protect people in the state.
You've sat through a few of these with different governors, including another Democrat, Governor Malloy. How did this compare to previous State of the States?
I thought it was tied with Governor Malloy's final State of the State address in terms of the best I've ever heard. It was certainly the best speech I've ever heard the governor give. I think he talked about things that, when you look back, see, sessions get so busy, sometimes we got to pause and say, what do we actually accomplish? When he talked about the growth of the Budget Reserve Fund, when he talked about the hospital settlement, which was looming over the state to the tunes of billions of dollars, when he talked about raising minimum wage, which, by the way, we've seen a $100 million growth in sales tax revenue, a lot of that spurred by a good economy and people having more money in their pocket. When you walk through all that stuff and you kind of clear out the noise, you realize there was a lot of successes last year. I thought it was a great speech, and it was optimistic. It's always good to be optimistic.
Republicans did sit during some standing ovations. There were some things that you just could not stomach, apparently, during this speech. What was the key thing that he said that really got to you?
Well, listen, we're going to talk about tolls and transportation until something happens or doesn't happen with it. I think that was the key thing to us. The reality is we believe strongly, Republicans in the legislature, in a substantial transportation investment. I don't think anybody disagrees with that. We just agree on how we do it. And the fact that, our colleagues on the other side of the aisle and the governor, just every chance they get, want to stick their hands in your pockets to take more money out when we have proposal after proposal that can do it in a responsible way to the tune of the same amount of money and do it in a responsible way.
He called it a user fee, not a toll. Why not just use the word tolls?
Well, it's a truck toll is what it is, but it's not passenger cars, and trucks are tolled everywhere on the eastern seaboard. But to the point of having different plans, there is one other plan that exists out there to pay for our transportation upgrades. That is to take $1.5 billion from the rainy day fund and pay down long-term liabilities, creating a savings of, say, $100 million a year. But it would leave us with no rainy day fund to really confront the challenges that may lie ahead, and certainly no liquidity, which is what you really need when the economy goes bad. But here's the good news. For those fiscal conservatives who feel like that's the best plan, we're going to put them on the record. I'm going to call that amendment. And we're going to say, if you're on the record of wanting to drain $1.6 billion from the rainy day fund, you run on that.
And here's the amendment I'm going to call. I'm going to call the House Republican plan, which only takes $500 million out of the rainy day fund, restructures the special transportation fund, where they take $500 million every year from your pockets in taxes and fees, etc., and don't use one dime for roads, rails, and bridges. And we're going to move that and restructure the state of Connecticut like we talked about, and we're going to downsize government, and we're going to do it to the same tune the government did.
Is that reasonable in your judgment?
Well, I haven't seen the plan. I think the Speaker and I, the Minority Leader knows, we always are willing to talk, so if she has a plan, we'll review it. Absolutely. We always agree to that. No question.
I want to talk about marijuana.
Sure.
Other states are moving ahead. We're sort of behind the game.
Yep.
What should the state do, you think?
Look, I've heard the arguments for and against. I'm to the point now where I say it's called a car. The reality is, if it's legal in Mass and it's going to be legal in New York soon and Rhode Island's pushing ahead, what are you preventing? Even if all the things that people talk about from a negative connotation, people are driving over the border, it's been decriminalized in Connecticut. It'd be like banning liquor in Connecticut at some point. So the reality is it's going to pass someday, and I hope it's bipartisan at some point.
You don't have the votes to stop it, correct? Legalizing marijuana. There's not enough.
Well, I don't know. We have votes to pass it either.
It's
a very controversial subject.
Here's the problem, okay? Whether you philosophically agree with it or not is one question, but the reason why most people in this legislature are considering making marijuana legal is because they want the revenue. And it goes back to this sticking their hands in your pockets. Now, I couldn't care less that any other state has passed it. I don't feel the need to do anything another state has done, but what I do think very strongly is this is a major public health and public safety initiative. And we see states like Colorado who are having problem after problem if you want to be responsible about this, we wait this out and see really what happens in regards to those states. Because this isn't just a quick thing we pass to get a few dollars.
You represent the city of Hartford. Mayor Ganim said that one thing that was missing in the speech today, not to be critical, but he said there should have been more focus on the cities. Do you agree with that?
I mean, look, I think the governor talked about New Haven and Hartford and the job growth and the wind projects for Bridgeport, so I think he was good on that. I got to go back just to one point that the minority leader said, though, with regards to marijuana. It's not a revenue grab. I don't care if it raises $5 million or $100 million. Again, it's decriminalized. It's going to be legal in neighboring states. And the problem is when you have a black market, when you allow that to stay, which it will in Connecticut, that's where you get tainted vaping. That's where you get marijuana that has laced with things. We got to get rid of that and have trusted providers do it, like the very successful medical marijuana program, which was also adamantly opposed by a lot of people and now is a national model.
Was there
other states that have done it are having problem after problem. So this notion that we have to look at other states, you can't say other states have done it so we should do it and then not look at other states that are having problems. This is too big and too important of an issue to not really think through. I mean, you think you're a police officer, you drive around, you think somebody might be driving under the influence, and you think it's alcohol, you can give them a breathalyzer. This way, what do you do with them? You have every police officer take somebody to the hospital to take blood. I mean, this is a much more cumbersome issue than the majority leader and many people are talking about. We just had a comment publicly by Electric Boat yesterday, which we tout as such an amazing business and employer in this state, talking about how many problems they're going to have if that's legalized. This is a big deal, and it needs to be treated as such.
Yeah, I mean, Mass has it, and I haven't heard those same complaints. But on the testing, which I admit is an issue for some members of our caucus as well, it's $4,000 to train a police officer to have the ability to detect. They have ways of detecting through different methods and even do blood tests potentially. So it would cost $4 million to train 1,000 police officers. I would put that in the bill as well. It's a fair point.
And I promise you, not one of those police officers wants to start taking blood from people at a stop.
Yeah, it doesn't always involve blood, only in certain rare instances, but they can tell visually.
One thing the governor said that drew a standing applause from everybody in the room was that he wanted people to stop bad-mouthing Connecticut. How big of a problem is that our state gets bashed by so many people?
I think here's the problem with that statement. Clearly, we all feel very strongly about our districts and our state, or we wouldn't run for office. Okay, so we believe that there's a way to make the state better. We believe there's a way to improve things that are bad and tout the things that are good. The problem is they define negative as truthful. And I have to tell you, as you can imagine, I speak to a lot of people, as the majority leader does. And every group, I start with the same statement. I'm going to tell you the truth. If that's negative, I'm sorry, but then I'm going to tell you how we should fix it. That's positive, and that is what people want to know, because people in this state have lost trust in government, and they are sick and tired of being told something that is not accurate, and then walking out of a room and thinking everything's fine, and then realizing it's not.
Representative Ritter?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the governor was right on with that. The problem remains in Connecticut is I think that people only want to tell the facts, though, that back up their story. So we got to be a little more well-rounded in how we present facts. There are some things we have to work on that are challenging, but there's some things we're really, really good at. And the unfortunate part is, I think, and it's in maybe potentially everywhere in both parties, is there's this right-wing faction in Connecticut that is growing in influence in the Republican Party. They don't believe in climate change. They don't believe in vaccinations. They don't believe in anything. They don't believe in government. They don't trust government. They are poisoning, I believe, the rest of a lot of folks here in Connecticut.
And there's a left-wing faction, the Democrat Party, that even they acknowledge has become problematic because they are pushing people out of the state every day.
If you had to give the governor a letter grade for his first year in office for his performance, what would it be?
I'm not going to go down that road again. I already did that once.
Your other Republican colleague in the previous segment did. How about you?
I would say that
I did it before, so I'm not
I don't care about
again.
grades. What I would say is today, the governor, again, was the best speech I've seen him give. It was an optimistic tone. We're going to have a great 3 months to get out of the session.
You chose not to run for governor in 2018. As you were sitting there watching him, did you have any regrets that maybe I should have done this, or maybe I may do it in 2022?
You never know what might happen, Dennis.
She has no regrets because she'd miss serving with me and Joe, so she's fine for now.
They're like my brothers.
Themis Klarides, the House Minority Leader. Thank you so much. And Matt Ritter, the House Majority Leader. We appreciate you being on the program.